Hey everyone, it's Kathy Colaiacovo. Well, I am here for what is probably my fifth attempt at doing this. But I think I have finally settled things out with Amazon and their S3 console, and I'm going to share with you the updated way on how you can use AWS and their S3 storage console to store your lead magnets so that you have a nice URL that you can link to in emails or on website pages, whatever it might be, that you can easily update and change as long as you keep the name of the file the same. That's one of the tricks about using it, is that if you change the name of the file and upload it again with a new file name, of course, it's going to have a different URL. So it's one of the benefits of using it. So you want to make sure that you follow that along. So I'm going to go on a screen share here and show you what and how to do this. I may be pausing this because it is still a little complicated, I'll be honest, for me to remember the different steps. And I'm still watching my list that I had created from my web designer, Marta, who had to help me figure all of this out. Then Amazon switched to enabling and forcing a two-factor authentication. I will be honest with that. It was a bit of a challenge getting in here. And I would recommend, I did not share it because it was kind of waiting for codes and stuff. But I will say, to start off, you're probably going to have to go in and set up some sort of authentication. It is not the norm in what they're asking you to set up. So I'll tell you what I did. I did and connected it with the two-factor authentication called Google Authenticator. So it's an app that I put on my phone. I'll put a link and an image of what their icon looks like for that app. So what you do is you basically put this app on your phone if you've never used Google Authenticator before. And then when you're trying to authenticate, logging in somewhere or whatever, it's going to send a couple codes to your phone or to the app. Maybe you have it on a phone, maybe you have it on a tablet. And when you do get the codes in, then it'll get you to enter them, and then you can bypass everything and start logging in. Setting it up was a bit of a challenge, I'll be honest with you. So it is something that might take a few minutes to set up. Basically, you name your device something. So in my case, I called it, my desktop, because I use a desktop for my business. And then I had to scan a QR code, hook it up, get it on the app on my phone, punch it in, and then I could set it up. Every other time you go to log in, you're going to have to go through this process as well. So that is what I used for that, was the Google Authenticator app that I downloaded on my phone. They recommend you put it on a couple devices, so I have it on my tablet as well. Just for me, that's the easiest way to get in and access it and get the codes that I would need to log in. So we're going to assume at this point you have logged in and you're in your account. I'm going to do some screen share here. I'm probably going to go off the video so that you can see everything a little easier. And that just makes it easier for me to see what's going on here too. All right. So once you have logged in, you will be in your account. You'll be set up in there. And I'll be honest, it looks very confusing. It looks very complicated. It's not that bad once you get going. So the main thing that we're going to be using is what they call their S3. So it's their Storage 3 console. This may not show here. I've been using this for years. Now, this is a new account that I made so that I could show you how to do this setup. But you may find things over here. So you might find stuff that's in over here. So you would go to storage to find that. And then you would see if there's recently visited stuff, you would go to the S3. So once you get in here and you get your account open, what you're looking to do is connect to the S3 and get in there. And then within here, this is where you're going to create what they call these buckets. So think of them as a big file folder, and you're going to decide whether or not you're going to have public access on it or not. Now, as I've said before, this is something I've used for years. In order to help you all know how to use this with new accounts, I've created a brand new account, done some testing on this. I've deleted some things, put them in and out just to test them out and make sure it's working so that I can share it as easy as possible. So when you're in here, in my main one, I had a couple folders or buckets, they call them, of like Pepper downloads, Pepper courses, different things like that. These buckets that you create, these new ones that you need to create, they have to be a very unique name. So it has to be something that no one else using this system might be using. So that's why when I was doing the creation of my own, mine are called Pepper downloads. I can call the bucket that because nobody else has it. I've got a couple test ones here as well that I've put in play. But you will want to decide if you're going to save them with some specific name or just have one if this is the only thing you're using it for. So once you do come in here, you get the account open and set up, then you're going to go in and create a bucket. So this is where we want to start with. We're going to hit create bucket. And this is where we're going to pick all the settings for these buckets and what we're going to do. Okay, so this is what is different from people like me who have older accounts. I didn't have to do this kind of setting change, and that's why we've had to do an update to this video. When you're creating your new bucket, you're going to have to give it a name. Okay. And it will tell you here, it has to be unique within the global space, which we talked about already. So I'm just going to do Pepper Test 3, and it's got lots of rules. Basically, you can't have dashes, names, spaces, anything like that. So this is the bucket that I want to call it. So then we're going to go into some of the access permissions for this bucket, for this folder. So one of the things, and this is where everything changed and they just didn't have a whole lot of information about how to do it or how to change, which has taken me a while to figure out and go through with some help from others. One of the things that you're going to have to do here at this point is type in that ACLs, so access control lists, are going to be enabled. They're usually disabled and usually recommended to be disabled. And the reason that they do this is that they want to make sure that you understand that anything you do in this way, that things can be changed and owned by other accounts, and you're opening yourself up. But we're going to limit what that all that ability is. But if you want to have a PDF file that you can put out there and have the public be able to access, which is what we're trying to do here, you have to enable the access control list so that you can change things. You leave the bucket ownership, the object ownership, to the bucket owner. Okay. And so we're going to leave that one on ACLs enabled. Then we have to uncheck block all public access. Again, there's people, so just to understand, there's people that store like large scale backups of websites and databases and other things in here. So they don't want people accessing this. But in our case, we want people to access our lead magnet file. So we're going to turn off the access settings here. And it just warns you, this might mean that your objects, your files, and your bucket, your folder can become public. We understand that. We want to acknowledge that. And at this point, then there's a couple other parts down here that we typically don't do. I leave bucket versioning off because I don't want to keep multiple versions of a file in the same bucket. I want to have the one and the only one. I save the originals on the computer, on my desktop. So we don't want to change this. I don't really typically use tags because I don't have enough in here, and I don't need to worry about tracking the costs, because you will have a fee, a small fee, to pay to Amazon to use this service. It's pennies. I used to, when we were in our heyday and had about 40 clients and I had a team of 14 working with me, we had at least 10 or 12 websites that we did the backups of their websites, and they were stored in here. I don't think my monthly fee ever went over $5, and that was saving like entire versions of websites. So the fees aren't going to be a lot. You probably don't need to track the costs in your buckets, but if you did, you would go into here and do this. The default encryption we're going to leave as is, and the bucket key we don't worry about changing any of that as well. There's nothing in the advanced settings we want to do. So we just hit create bucket. And it will let you know if your bucket was created. So my Pepper Test 3 has been created. If I want to start using it, I can. And so now I have, you can see I have this new bucket that was created. So what happens here is at this point, we have the bucket created now. So we're going to go into that bucket because we want to set more permissions here before we put anything into this bucket. Okay. So at this point, what we want to do here is go into permissions for the bucket overall. So we have already done the block public access. We've turned that off. There's no policy that I'm going to type in here and put in here. The object ownership we have left as controlling the ownership to the account here, bucket owner preferred. And now we get to where the ACL, the control access control list is. This is where we are going to decide who can read and write is what I was going to say. But now in the last week or so, they've changed this to list and write. So we've redone this video, parts of it, to make sure that you understand what the difference is here, because the previous video had something different on here. So now what we're looking at here is the bucket owner, who is me. I can list and write objects, and I can read and write. So this is where something is new. It used to say read and write. So we just wanted to make sure everything was understood. So essentially when it says now list, it means people can only read the item, and read means they can only read the information. Writing means they could actually possibly update them, edit the files, delete different things like that. So we don't want that happening to the public. Okay. So within the objects, we want to make sure that people can see them. They call it now listing or reading. And then we want to make sure that only I, as the bucket owner, could write anything. So that's what we have here for the bucket owner: list and write, and read and write. So within objects in there, I can list them or read them. I don't know why they changed this from read to list. And I can also write them as the owner. But everyone has no access. So this is where we need to change things here. So we're going to hit edit, and we're going to put list onto the object item. We are not going to put it on the bucket because I don't want them to be able to do it with everything. I want to pick and choose the files that I put in here that I can do this. I don't go into the authenticated users or the log delivery group, again, above my pay grade, don't need to go there. So the only thing that we want to change here is being able to give public the ability to list, which actually means read this now. And it warns you here. That's why it's got the red button here. When you grant access, anyone in the world can access this. And you just want to say, I understand this, and that I totally get. And then you're going to hit save changes. So once you've done this, you've got the listing and writing, listing and read and write here. You are ready to go ahead and now use the bucket to upload your objects, which are your files. Okay. So we're going to go back over to objects. I always go back in here, double check that now that I've saved it, that everything is good, and it is. So I can come back up here, and at this point I can upload a object that I want to upload. So what we do in here is you can either drag and drop files in, or you can add a file here or add a folder. I don't recommend adding folders unless you're doing it for yourself and you don't have public permissions. So as I say that, I also want to reiterate, when you put these files in this bucket from what we have done now, you want to make sure that you're only using this bucket for files that you might give access to people, like for your lead magnets. I would never use this same folder to store other things, like a backup of my website. I don't know how to do that. I'll be honest. Marta does that, but you don't want to mix what you're putting in here because you do have this public access here. It does warn you about how big a size of file that you can have and all of that. So essentially at this point, you go in and you're going to add a file. So one of the things that I just thought I would put in here is I have a new 10 steps to optimize your contact page file. So I was going to just upload that there. Now, a word about file names here. You'll see that I have changed this to 10-steps-2-optimize. There's my other ones that I made, like when I created the file. Okay, I don't have it there, but there's other ones that I've made that have spaces in them. When you put spaces in a file name and then you use Amazon to upload things to, it's going to put some code in to make up for those blank spaces. The percent, 20% symbols, I think is what goes in there. So when you have finalized your last file, I want you to make sure that you put dashes or underscores in it so that there are no blank spaces in it, because you don't want to have that. One thing I'll show you, one foundations guide, where do we have it? So this is a guide. No, this is an old one. I just want to make sure, hold on a sec here. So sometimes what happens is you end up having different versions of your file on your computer because you update it. One of the reasons I like to use this system is because when I want to update that PDF, I can put it in there. And if anybody saved the link anywhere, bookmarked it, it's always going to have the new and updated link. So within this, what I typically do for saving versions on my computer, this would have been the Foundations checklist from 2022 that got updated. When I saved it initially, I saved the version with the 2024. But the file that I actually put online is the marketing-foundations-checklist. Okay, it's just a smaller version. It doesn't, and it publicly, it will show just marketing-foundations-checklist. But on my end, I like to keep track of what was good or bad. So this one that said old, this is my typical file name for when I make an update to this. I take the one that I had here last and change the name to old. Then when I make the newest version, I update one with the date in it, but then I also update it and save a version of it with no date, because that's going to be the one that I'm going to load up onto Amazon. So I'll just show you the difference between these. I'm really good at saving all of these different. Okay, so this one has a couple spaces. So I'm going to show you what that would look like. But let's just assume, I'll do that in a second. This is going to be the final version one that I want to put up. So I'm going to grab it. It's got my file name saved. I'm going to hit upload. I'm going to hit open for that. And then I'm going to hit upload, and it's letting me know it's putting it in the Pepper Test 3, which is the new file that we just made. So it takes a minute, and you'll see it up there, and then you'll see the file that is here. And so what this all means, it's a whole bunch of stuff, you know, who owns it, when it was modified, size of it, the key code, all of that. And just some information on the destination URL, the resource name that people will see publicly. And then this is the actual file. So if I click on that file, whoops, I want to open it in a new tab. Sorry. I'm going to open that in a new tab. When you click on it, nobody can see this code. You get this, what they call an XML file error. And that is because I haven't made that file in particular public yet either. So I can do that in one of two ways. I can go into permissions here, and I can go and edit and do the change again over here. So I could go edit and make it read access, or the easier way that I like to do it is I hit the object action and I just hit make public. So if when I've got it here, it's warning you when it's enabled and not blocked, anyone can see it. That's what we want. So we're going to hit make public. So once you do this, it tells you it's happened, and you can see the object below. So, and it's got a summary for you. Now, it also typically highlights as failed to edit. That doesn't mean anything, no objects failed. The one that you did actually did work. So what I typically do, you don't see the URL here at this point, but I go back to here to the bucket and I click on the item and then I open it again just to test it. And now you can see the document. This is the file for it online. So marketing-foundations-checklist. That is why it's important that you have a naming convention on how you do this. I'm going to show you what the difference is on putting one in that has spaces. So we're going to just upload another file, and I'm going to grab one of the ones that I had said, I think it had a 21 in it. Hold on. Yeah, so see this one has, there's spaces between marketing and foundations and checklist. So this is the reason why I make sure that I, one, save a smaller file name, but also make sure there's no spaces in it. Because when we look at this now, okay, they've changed this as well. So they put a plus symbol in. So now there's all pluses. So instead of the % sign, these plus symbols have gone in here. Whereas I prefer to make sure that I've just got the marketing-foundations-checklist. That way I know I don't have to save any versions with a space or anything different like that, that I've got it all set up so that when I make a new version of this, I'm just going to call it marketing-foundations-checklist. It's going to save the same way. If I'm making a file name like this, where I had an underline, then I had a space and a dash and a space, if I make one thing off there, it's just not going to save it as the same version. My purpose for using this is to be able to save that URL, that file name for that folder with the exact same name every time. If I start naming things randomly on the other side and uploading them here randomly, then it's not going to give me necessarily the same version. Plus, my theory is I don't like to have the year. A lot of people will put it in, they'll put final in, they'll put version 2, whatever it might be. I like people just to have the file name saved as marketing-foundations-checklist. So it just makes it a little bit easier in there. So I'm going to go back and into the bucket. Now there's 2 files, but I'm going to delete this one because I don't actually want it. And when you want to delete things, you also have to type in permanently delete because they're warning you, are you sure you want to do this? I do want to do this. So I'm going to put in permanently delete. It's the file that I want gone, and I'm going to hit delete objects. And so once I'm done there, now that will be gone. And the only file version left is this one here. One way I like to always do a final test as well is go in and copy a link to the file. I go into another browser and open up a different window where I'm not logged into my Amazon, and I type in the file, and I just want to make sure that people can still open it and see it and use it, and they can. So I'm happy with that. I know that I've got the access that I want. So that is how you would, as someone with a newer account, so this would be anyone with accounts after 2022, I believe, and beyond, would have to make your files public with Amazon. So the main key parts of this, I know we went through a lot, but essentially you want to have a bucket, and you need to create a bucket where the permissions on the bucket have block public access turned off, have access, sorry, hold on, which one here is the object ownership. You want to have turned to ACLs enabled. And then you will be able to go in and access things and change them to, in the access control list, the ACL, you'll be able to go in and edit it. To have someone to be able to publicly view your PDF of your lead magnet means that under the everyone public access, you need to have it there as list. Just because this is new and we had to change this part of the video here, the earlier part that we had in there. If you see read and write here, so if you see read still somehow here, I don't think you will, but if you do, read is okay. List and read are essentially the same thing. I just wanted you to make sure that you saw and understood that with this new version, because this literally changed in the within the first part of December 24, from read to list. And that is it. So once you have this set up, then this URL becomes the URL that you would have in your email system that will deliver the lead magnet to people. So when you have your email that goes out and says, hey, thanks for signing up and requesting my free marketing foundations checklist, here's the link to download that file. This is the file that you're going to give them right here. This is the file that will give them access to it. Because you have changed it and made it a public access here, they'll be able to access it. If you haven't done that, you will see something like one of these in here, which is basically saying access denied, you can't access it. So that should fix up what you need to get you all set up to use Amazon's S3 storage console system for your lead magnet files. There's lots of other things that you can do with that too. You could probably use your imagination. Your web manager may want to use it for backups the way that we do, but that is all a very higher tech level version and talk and story and lesson from someone other than me, because this is as far as I go with the Amazon and the S3 storage for lead magnets. So hopefully that sorts things out for you, gets you through what you need. We'll have some steps on what you want to do within the lesson below in the notes as well. And then you can follow along with this to get it set up. Hopefully that will get everyone all figured out for storing their lead magnets in a really easy way, that if you want to make a new and updated version, I should show you that actually. Let me just pop back out and show you that quickly. What happens when you update your lead magnet and you want to put a new version in there. So essentially what I do is I make sure first, as I said earlier, that we've got, so what did we do here? We did the marketing foundations. So what I make sure I do first is whatever this version was, marketing foundations checklist as the only name, that's my latest version. So I would take that and I would rename it. And I would rename it, I'd probably do something like, say, 2023. That was my other version, okay? That would have been my, well, it was 2024. So that would have been my last version. Then I would go into the actual latest version of the checklist, which was this one. So I would go into my Word document file. You may have a Canva file, you may have a combination of things. So for me, I have a combination of this Word document and then a PDF cover for the cover and for the last page for the bio page. I would put them all together, save them as well. I would update them. I would make sure my copyright is updated. I would put it all back together, save the final version as, say, 2024 like this. And then I would save another copy of it that is going to be, so I'm going to copy this here. This is my final one of the latest version that I did. I'm going to copy and paste it in here and it comes up with the name as copy. And now I'm going to take everything out of it and put it back to the name that I use when I upload it to Amazon. That becomes my main name that I put in, and I know it because I've saved it and I have a record of it that I saved from when I put it into the system the last time. So then what I would do is come in over here. This is not the version. Let me make sure I just saved that. Yeah, I did. So this is the version we want to replace. So I go in, I delete it. Yes, do you want to delete? I do. Permanently delete the object. Then I go back in and I upload the new version that I just made, add the file in there, put that new version in, upload that. Then I go back to the file grab the file, make it public, hit the button, yes, make it public. And so it's got it in there. I go over here, come back to the file and test it out to make sure it shows up again. And it is showing up with Marketing Foundations checklist. But that is everything. That is all that I have to show you when it comes to the AWS and the updates. If you have any questions and you're in my programs, come to the group sessions or our Tech Time Hour about it. I'm also replacing this on my YouTube channel for those of you watching it over there. If you have any questions, there'll be ways under the YouTube video where you can access this as well. And that is it, folks. I hope you found this helpful, enlightening, and get you into using Amazon S3 for your lead magnet PDFs and files, because it really can be a really easy way to have a link, a specific link to share to people. That you're not relying on an email system to be a link, or you're not relying on your website. And if you upload it there in a WordPress site, every time you make a new version of it, that file is going to have a new name. This is the way that you can keep that name the same and make sure that you are not changing anything, so that wherever you have that link out there, people come to it and always get your most up-to-date version. And that's it for this lesson. I hope it's been helpful, enlightening. And most importantly, I hope it helps you put your lead magnet together out there online somewhere with ease, where you have a really easy URL for people to access, one that you can update without changing that link over time. Have a great day, everybody.